the thing that stands out to me, above it all, was the Lord's favor over Taiwan, and that the saints of Taiwan had captured his heart in a very, very precious way. And I saw, as I was taken into it, I saw Christians on their face, prostrate, interceding, wailing, interceding and praying for the nation. And, a release of the angelic hosts that, that were brought into the region for really into what's going to be an epic battle, spiritual battle first, but the favor of the Father that was upon those that had laid down their life at the altar, submitted to him and engaged with him. And, the Lord can save by many, or he can save by few. And what I saw was such a humility upon those that within Taiwan that were on their faces praying. And, as I watched it, I saw the intimidation and the threats coming from China. They were ramping up hard. And, and so, there's been times in the past where I believe, this has probably happened, but this was kind of on a whole new level. And my sense was that, even though things are very tinder dry, but I felt like the enemy was trying to use Taiwan as a pawn to make certain things happen globally. And so, as I was taken into a meeting room, in the spirit, in China, there was officials and leaders and politicians, gathered around a strategic briefing room. And, they were overlooking a map of Taiwan, and they clearly had, some intentions to increase actions, in due time. But there were also some American operatives that were also in the room. And, they were men in black, and they had these blue lanyards on. They said Biden, so I believe they were under, Biden's administration, and deep state global controls. That's what I believe were kind of in play with that. And so the Americans, like the ones that Biden had in that meeting, were playing both sides of the table, in the sense that they were appeasing the Chinese because of the compromise and some of the things that they'd been involved with the Chinese, with the Biden family, which is very, very scary. But then they were also talking out of the other side of their mouth to Taiwan to try and appease both so they could, basically leverage things. But as I was taken, to an office then in Taiwan with the president of Taiwan, and, she was surrounded by officials, and she was on a phone with President Trump. I overheard a conversation, and the Trump administration's support for Taiwan, and just the reassurance that they would be there to stand, behind. And my sense was, even though she maybe, had, some things that she had to work out, I'll put it that way. She wasn't a complete saint either, but God's hand was upon the whole situation. And, I just felt that as they were working behind the scenes together, that there was more strategy that was going to come in for the nation into the administration of Taiwan to roll that out. So, I think these are things that are, some key prayer points to pray through for Taiwan. And then, I was taken into a prayer gathering, to me it was on a Taiwanese military base. And they had a prayer meeting. It was just an ongoing prayer meeting. And there were those, men and women that were in service in the Taiwan military that had a heart for God. And they knew that they needed Him. And they knew that, these days, they needed the wisdom and the protection and the covering from the Father for everything that was kind of on the table. And they would come and go out of that room and just with an intensity and a humility was quite remarkable. So from there I ended up in a room with these high level, to me they were like generals. Oh, sorry. And these generals, they were in a tall tower, like an office tower in a city. And they were in a boardroom that was all glass walls, and they could look out over Taiwan and over this city and see for miles. And it was, they had white, very crisp, uniforms. Again, there was a real humility around the table and a dependency upon God, because they would discuss a few things and then they'd get on their knees. And then, they would pray. And so, they'd strategize and they would pray, and they would pray and they would strategize. And so my sense was that, these were men and women of God who were leaning in and being pressed, by the circumstances to dig into the Lord in ways that maybe they had not in the past. And so, I knew that as they did, the Father was going to give them the secrets and the wisdom in how to, maneuver. So as I watched this, there was a formation that came out of the sky it was like a gold mist, like a glory mist that came down like a dome, I guess the only way I could explain it, over Taiwan. And to me, it was the Lord that had put a boundary and protection over Taiwan during this time, against the onslaught and the potential threat and action from China. And I could see this thing, it began to pulse like this golden covering that was over the nation. It started to pulse with the heartbeat of the Father. And as it did, it sent waves around the globe, because Taiwan is in such a critical point right now for the nations. If action is taken, one way or the other, it could, as very quickly escalate. So everyone is, watching what is going to play out here. And my sense was that Taiwan was almost used like bait for the enemy to come and take a bite at. But they were going to meet the Lord Almighty as they would do so, and He would have a victory over them. And I'm saying, in a biblical sense of the word, like I feel like, there's a move that's coming here that, you look at the 7-day war in Israel, and there were miraculous things that happened that gave a victory there where they shouldn't have had a victory. There were sandstorms, there was, supernatural elements that, literally gave them an advantage to win. And my sense is that we're going to be seeing, some of these things even potentially play out right now. So, I know that the Lord is your protector and deliverer, and, He said that, He's, your everlasting strength in times of trouble. In Taiwan, He said, you're mine. I will not forsake you. I will not let you go. And Taiwan, you're being used by my mighty hand in this hour. There's no way around it. So Taiwan, you will sound the alarm, you'll blow the trumpet, and you will wake up the nations. Because Taiwan, you are a catalyst in this hour. The nations are watching your every move. So Taiwan, my strong and resilient daughter, you've endured much and you've grown strong in the spirit. And there shall be nothing that you fear. There shall be nothing that you can't overcome in me and by my spirit. So Taiwan, you shall expose more than you're aware. Those who have worked against you and have spoken with a forked tongue and have betrayed you shall be brought to justice, my justice. For Taiwan, you have my favor upon you in this hour. So as you stand with me and as you call their bluff, I will be with you. For they are moving at an accelerated pace, for they have everything to lose, for they know the days are short. So Taiwan, 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 prepare ye the way of the Lord, and holy is the word of the Lord. You know, the ecclesia in Taiwan take their role and take their place, and in prayer and in petition in those places as they make the decrees and the declarations. Because as we know, the ecclesia, the apostolic, the prophets, you know, this is the government of God that actually should be running and working with the kings and priests. And they're actually the ones that can actually make, you know, see things pivot and change. And so I believe that Taiwan is going to see great revival coming out of this. And you know, you look at different ones over the years who, you know, the Lord has never called us to a fair battle. Because if we were called to a fair battle, we would think that it would be something that we could accomplish by our own hands. But when the battle is bigger than us, He and He alone will get the glory. And so I'm believing that as this folds out, these are some of the things that we're going to see. This is my perspective, but I think the importance for prayer, for worship, to come together, because as you do that, as you gather in prayer and in intercessory prayer and worship, there's realms of the Spirit that open up. And when those moments come, and when He comes and He opens those meetings up, in those places, as you have the equity in the room, as you have authority, men and women and pastors and apostles and prophets and leaders that can come together in unity and take a stand against these principalities and powers that are coming against you. That is actually where the victory, in my opinion, that's where you gain the most ground. Not to say that there aren't things you can maybe do in a practical way, but I know that, you know, for me, those are the places where you can make your prayer strikes, where you can make, where you can actually take back ground and you can displace, the actions and intentions of an enemy. We need to be delivered from religion. We need to be delivered from a religious spirit. And Gen Z, they've got a rawness about them. They don't care about maybe some of the things that, the older generations kind of cared about. And they're not impressed by a celebrity figure up on a podium. They're looking for fathers. They're looking for mothers. They're looking for transparency. They're looking for honesty. They're looking for family. They're looking for places where they're loved, where they're accepted, and where there's room for their gift to grow. And when you get into some of the larger, denominational churches and structures, often there's a limitation upon, what they're able to function in. sadly, when I believe as the Gen Z come to know the Lord and come baptized by His Spirit, they're actually going to run faster and they're going to gain much more fruit than some that have been believers for decades, because there'll be an abandonment upon them where they're not restricted by some of the Christian rules and some of the religious things that we do to try and control things and make people comfortable. And I see Gen Z as wild ones, and we need them.